Hello, friends. Welcome. We're just going to give a minute or two for folks to find their way here. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves, and if you want to change your name in your chat, your little name at the bottom of your screen to say where you're from or what your center is, that would be amazing. Just going to mute people as they come in. Hi, Aaron. How are you? I don't know your name, Hollyhock Board of Directors, but I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, I'm Katrina Scher. I'm the new EA at Hollyhock and just attending. Oh, hi. Attending for Katya today. Who's
So
the
glad you're
Lovely.
here. Thanks for coming.
Do you want to change your name if you can on the bottom of the screen? I think if you go to your window on the right side in those three dots, you can rename it.
I've tried it. It doesn't seem like it does because it's all through the Hollyhock, so it's not giving me an option. Unfortunately, yes. But it's Katrina, yes.
Right.
Hello, Alexander. Hi, Matthew. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Lots of new faces.
Well, others are going to find their way here, but I'm just going to get us started. My name's Michael. I'm the Retreat Center Collaboration Network Manager, and we're just delighted that you found your way here today to join us and to meet with Tatyana to talk a little bit more about HR. And just before we get started, I just invite you to let's just ground ourselves. So just sit down, whatever's in your hands. Take a minute to find your way here, find your feet on the floor. Let's just take 3 big breaths in together. Know that your full self is welcome in this sacred circle where we're going to learn some sacred knowledge from Tatyana about how to continue to learn and grow. So I'm going to turn it over to Tatyana, and just thanks everybody for being here. This is being recorded as well, so just so you know.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody. Lots of new faces, for me at least. So quick introduction. My name is Tatyana Sanikovich. I was checking. I was like, is my name on the bottom of my screen at least for everybody? And I am at the moment now an HR advisor and a leadership coach. And I come from retreat centers and hospitality. The last was Esalen Institute, where I served as an HR director for 12 years. And so now currently some of my other clients are some of the retreat centers that actually some are present here and some are not, or nonprofits. That's kind of where my background is. Overall, my HR tenure is almost 20 years, primarily in hospitality, nonprofits, and retreat centers. So today, what I wanted for us to, the topic, as you all know, is the kind of successful onboarding. And I think where I wanted to start actually quickly to go through the room so we can introduce ourselves. So a quick thing about it is your name. Some of you have your retreat centers or centers there, kind of like your name, maybe your role in the center. And question I have for you is, think back to a time that you started in a job or community, and what's kind of one event or one kind of little thing that stood out for you or someone did that really helped. So I can start, as I introduced myself already. When I started at Esalen, that was in 2009, I had a 2.5-year-old with me who was actually going to that school, and it was a completely different world for me. So I actually had somebody there who still works there, who literally was a very direct person from Brazil, who approached me, him and his wife, and said, "We're going to have dinner tonight." And from that time on, when Maxime and I would come to Esalen, we would have dinner. And I knew that was an anchor for me, no matter what I was figuring things out as they went. And that's one of the things I then incorporated in onboarding with Esalen, is having somebody having dinner with the person starting. So that would be for me. I will, let me see, because I have my view has changed for a minute. I'm just going to call out. I'm going to say Erin, so we can move quickly.
Hello, I'm Erin Tronson. I'm the executive director at Holy Wisdom Monastery in Wisconsin. What a great question. Thank you, Tatyana. I've been in nonprofits for decades and decades, but just started here as the executive director about 2 years ago. And something when you said that it reminded me of my first day and walking into the monastery and the retreat center, finding my office, opening the door, and on my desk was this lovely poem that was signed from the coworkers that we have wild turkeys here and 180 acres of restored prairie. So it was this lovely poem about holy wisdom and how the turkeys are glad. I was just looking for it, but I can't find it. The turkeys are glad that you're here, and the prairie is glad that you're here. And it was just a really welcoming moment. And the Benedictine hospitality really shone through at that moment, I thought. So thank you.
Thank you. What a beautiful moment. Alexander.
Hi, my name's Alexander. I am the newly appointed executive director at Shadowcliff Mountain Lodge, which was founded by my grandparents back in the 1950s, but has been its own functioning nonprofit. They retired in the early 2000s, so it's not been connected to my family since 2001. And I've been in various other leadership positions before. I've hired and onboarded before, but now I'm just overseeing a very different kind of level of establishing organizational culture and welcoming, especially because it's a seasonal lodge. So we have a new crop of people coming in. There's some folks that stay with us year round, but a new crop of folks coming in every summer. In answer to the question, yeah, I worked for 6.5 years at a grant making organization in New York, and I think just one of the things that was really nice, it was a small organization, and there were two things when I first started. One was just a very thoughtful sort of like tour to the actual physical space that we were in. We were in a small office in the West Village, an introduction to each of the members of our small team. It was a staff of 8. And so really had a chance to sort of, and then like over the course of that week, just short meetings with each person to get a sense of kind of what they do and how they were going to collaborate with the role that I was in. But then also there were a series of events and programs that the organization either put on or partnered with other organizations to put on that staff were invited to attend. And that helped me as a new staff member get oriented to, it was a grant making organization for artists. So it helped me get oriented to who are some of the people and organizations in our community, what some of the kinds of exhibitions and artwork that we support, and just helped me feel kind of immediately connected to not just the administrative side of administering these grants, but actually what is the impact of those grants in the world. Thanks,
Beautiful.
Tatyana.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthew.
I couldn't find the unmute. I am new to Prairie Woods. It's a Franciscan eco-spirituality center, and I'm the director of development. And I'm thrilled to say that when I was, even before I was onboarded, the executive director walked me through the grounds outside and showed me the labyrinth and the forest, and let me feel and absorb the spirituality that was inherent here. So in a very Franciscan way, it was very quiet and an intentional moment, and it really helped me understand before I was even hired what was important about this place, and it helped me a lot to get moving in the correct direction.
To connect. I love how everybody's actually touching in all different parts of onboarding that worked. It was like our conversation will be done by the time we'll check in. I was like, these are all the parts that are part of onboarding. Leslie.
So the irony is that I'm the one who hired Matthew. So I'm really glad that he said that. Part of my onboarding, which was unique to the executive director role. So I'm executive director at Prairie Woods Franciscan Spirituality Center, is that I had the opportunity to go to our founding organization in Wisconsin and spend 3 days getting to understand sort of the larger context of what led to Prairie Woods. And it's something I wish we could do for everyone that we bring on board.
No, that's beautiful, actually. You touched on something particularly with hybrid or remote employees, that's another piece that comes up, like how to connect that. Katrina.
Hi. So like I said, I'm very new to this role at Hollyhock. I was able to, about a couple of weeks ago, so I have been to Hollyhock before on Cortez Island. I live nearby on the next island, and my family's moving there shortly. And one of the nicest things that Katya did to orient me is actually invite me there so I could meet her in person before she was away for the winter. And kind of fortuitously, it was one of those days where we didn't know if it was going to be stormy. I took an overnight bag, and it ended up being the case that all the ferries were canceled. So I got stuck over there, which was really lovely. And they put me up in a wonderful house there. And so I was able to connect with the people, because right now it's a remote job essentially. So able to connect in person and be there on the grounds and the land.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's quite an important piece. Liz.
Hello, I'm Liz. I'm the operations manager at Big Bear Retreat Center. And this is kind of a stumped question because I don't feel like I've really ever been onboarded properly. So I don't have a solid answer, which I think says a lot, and I imagine you'll speak to. But one thing that came up is I went to a yoga retreat in Mexico that was like kind of arduous to get there. And it's like plane, trains, automobiles, packing, money, all the things to get to the moment where you like walk into your bungalow that's surrounded by the forest. And on my pillow, there was this little bag, and in that bag was a little Ganesh statue. And I thought, beautiful. And so I've been able to borrow that exact idea and take that into other places. So for me, I've gotten a lot of good ideas so far, and I thank you for the question.
Of course. Scott.
Hello. I, like Liz, came into a situation where there was no onboarding. It's more just jumped into the fire. So I've done that in the last 2 jobs where I come in, like the job before this when I came on board, and the day that I came on board, the owner of the business said, my father had a heart attack. I'm leaving for a month. Good luck. Here you go. Here's a password. So I'm kind of, onboarding's new. I know it's a good thing. I'm not familiar with it, but I need to be able to do it for others.
Great. That's a great awareness as well, Scott, is that we're pulling the threads and things, and I'll go over some frameworks, but it's the part of like, hey, I don't have a good framework for it and or experience. And so how do we pull and weave those things? Pamela.
Hello, everyone. I am Pamela Dominguez. I am the team coordinator for Retreat Center Collaborations. Onboarding experience. Well, I've been a virtual employee, remote employee for quite a long time. But what I would say, and that onboarding there is always a little tenuous at best. But I would say that one of the best experiences, given that my brain is always in operations because that's what I do. And I'm a super big fan of standard operating procedures and like telling people how to do things, what the steps are. And I started one job one time that there was what I used to call my desk Bible that literally had everything step by step of what you would do. So you could sit down and it could sit, anyone in theory could sit down at the desk, pick up a pen, open the desk Bible and say, oh, I need to do X, Y, Z and go flip, 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 find it and follow the steps and be able to do it. And I thought that was so nice. And it was like, so now I always endeavor wherever I go is if before I leave is to give that as a gift to someone and say, this is what I've got. You know, it may not be everything, but it's a starting point for you. So that's my.
You bring something up, and I'll keep moving through all of us, is that I was smiling because for exactly a lot of people, that is, oh my God, what a gift. And for some people, they will get to a binder like that. They're like, you want me to do what? Like every step I have to look at the binder and I have no creativity and this is so constricting. And then you have to work through employee relations issues because of the freaking binder. And you're like, it's a resource to you. So let's see how we're going to learn to navigate through resources that are available to you. So it's just, that's why it brings such a delight to me that we all have very different learning styles, communication styles, and it's kind of, for all of you as leaders, you're on the hook to be like, you have to figure out yours, and then you have to figure out your team. And then how do you speak to each team member, onboard them to their listening, to like, so that it actually stays with them. And so that's probably another topic. Peter, thank you, Pam.
Hi, everyone. Peter, calling from Bowen Island here in Canada. I like this question because I think it is like these like little things that can really make a difference. So I've mostly been in nonprofit my whole life, but I had a very brief interlude in the private sector for 3 years at a tech company in Los Angeles. And when I arrived, I had to go there for a month of orientation. And so when I arrived, I walked into like what was a very big office. There was like, I think 120 people. And the person was very lovely. And they walked me to what they called my desk. And on my desk was like this beautiful welcome package. It just made me feel like someone had like, because I was like, arriving in this new city and like I'd never worked in the private sector. It just made me feel like they had actually thought about it before I arrived. And it was just a very small thing, but there was like, a t-shirt, like there was swag, there was my computer, it was just very basic. And I think I took that from there. And whenever I'm onboarding someone, I try to make sure that there's those little things that matter.
You bring something up, and I'm just like flowing with what everybody's sharing, is a lot of times I'm noticing in nonprofits and retreat centers, being corporate, God forbid, is like being a communist in a way, which I come from that part of the world. But to me, those are the pieces that actually are a lot more fine-tuned and are much tighter in a corporate world is the onboarding. Like Pam, to your SOPs things, like there's a whole SOP on the onboarding because how the companies are set up. And I'm finding that with retreat centers and nonprofits, that's not the case a lot of times. It's just kind of like sink or swim. We're all here for the heart. And it's kind of like, that's not helpful. And so this is another thing, is like we can all nurture the culture of the connection and heart and the mission. And for humans to anchor themselves in a new place, that there's all kinds of things that could help, like think of arriving to any new place. So Peter, thank you. Michael.
Hey, everybody. I'm Michael. I'm coming from Paris, Ontario, Canada. Mine is, I think, an extension of Peter's, and it's very basic, but I remember sort of my first adult job when I arrived to the building. They took me to my office, and it was like clean. The drawers were cleaned out. My new computer was on the desk. I didn't have to like get someone else's like crumbs out of the drawer, anything like that. And there was a box on the desk that had everything they thought I needed, like a stapler that was fully loaded, an extra staple. Like they had just taken time to really make sure that I didn't have to ask for anything. And I will just admit, like, as a former executive director, I think I made so many mistakes onboarding. And so I'm just thrilled to listen and learn today.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm not sure if you can unmute or BC Rashani, are you there? Maybe, maybe not.
Hello.
Oh, great. Hello.
Hi, my name is Roshni. I have 10 years of experience in corporate, and this is my first time experience in retreat center. So I'm working with Bethlehem Center in Nanaimo, Ireland, as administrative services manager. So it's completely different experience because when you come from corporate, it's like you have a proper onboarding process, and as you mentioned, tons of SOP, you go through it, and vision and mission are very clearly explained to you. So in Bethlehem Center, we don't have currently a proper onboarding process. So I don't have this story from Bethlehem Center, but I do have from corporate that when I went through 5 days of training plan, like they explain about the company, and the most important thing I remember is my desk was well prepared, and I don't need to worry about, as earlier person mentioned, where is my pen, where is my diary, and the sweet little note was mentioned that great people start with this company, and we are here to have more and more success together. It was very sweet note.
Thank you so much. There was some breakup in internet, but I think what I heard, just to kind of reiterate, is that the desk was really well prepared for you, so that out of all the things that you remember is that one thing that was definitely stood out. And welcome. Yeah, welcome.
Yes, that welcome note, it was very sweet note.
Yeah, and the welcome note.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Amber, can you jump in? Oh, cool.
Hi. My name is Amber. I work at Southern Dharma Retreat Center. It's a Buddhist retreat center in Western North Carolina. And I'm the finance and HR manager. And the HR side of it is relatively new. I'm more experienced in the finance side of it, or at least with Southern Dharma. And I think for me, just getting to know my coworkers outside of working is always very helpful, and building like bonds and understanding each other. And I find that like getting to know the people who are running the organization, is a big part of like the spirit of the organization. So I'm thinking not at Southern Dharma, but at a previous job, that was kind of my favorite parts, is when we would do like staff outings together and kind of get to know people on a more personal level.
It's another aspect actually that you're bringing into the group as well. Thank you so much. And Toby, you would be the last one if you can unmute.
My name is Toby. I'm with Holy Wisdom Monastery just outside of Middleton. It's ironic that I'm going last because I'm lucky enough to get to work with Aaron, who went first after you. So I've been having to think back. I just celebrated my 9th work anniversary just a couple of days ago, so it's been a while. So I did have to think back. I remember there being a nice mix of some nuts and bolts type of stuff, like sitting down with the CEO at the time and going over the budget, and so like some detail stuff, but then also spending some time with one of the sisters to hear about the history of the sisters community and mission, as well as spent an hour of those first couple of days taking a tour of our prairie, which is a big part of what we do. So I remember it onboarding. What kind of stands out as I look back 9 years later is there being a good mix of like the nuts and bolts stuff of what would take place in my job as director of operations, but then also not forgetting and paying attention, spending time to teach me, spend time with the culture stuff, the work culture stuff, the things that make Holy Wisdom Monastery, part of what make Holy Wisdom Monastery special. So that's 9 years later, thinking back, it was that nice mix of like nuts and bolts stuff with the more ethereal, equally important parts of what makes us special as an organization.
Yeah. Oh, that's Carolina's. Thank you so much, Toby. We'll jump into I have some slides, but again, I wanted to be as interactive as possible. And Michael, thank you for helping me with the slides. We can probably start, but I will watch the chat as well. So as I'm going through the slides, please put reflections, put things that kind of resonate, things that don't resonate. And again, this is all as a resource. Take what works, don't take what doesn't work, try different things. And so, hold on, you're going far, going back. There we go. But what I would like for everybody to walk away with is understanding that, we can go to the next slide, Michael, is that how we greet, kind of like how we begin, shapes how we belong. How we begin shapes our relationships, our work, all of that. And as in the centers, the mission is important. And how do we walk the talk that we try to make the world a better place in whichever aspects of our work that we do? Is how do we invite those who start and work, yourself included, into that space in a mindful way, thinking long term? So this is a commitment of time, energy, and resources that is so worth it. And I can tell you actually with some numbers right now, so we can advance to the next slide. So for some of us who like to ground things in numbers, like why does it matter? Why should I do this at all? I pulled some numbers for all of us. At least at this moment, that's kind of what popped up in my research. But if you could see, as you could see them, that the strong onboarding drives 82% higher retention and 70% faster productivity. And there's words like productivity or, performance that a lot of times in nonprofit and retreat centers, we kind of go, I don't know about using that word. But at the end of the day, if we want to make an impact, that needs to be on the table for things to move forward in a meaningful way so you could see the progress of the work that you're doing. So these are big numbers in terms of if you put intention and commitment at the beginning, this is one of the biggest retention pieces that you can put into and implement. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be steps, could be little things, but like as you build them, that could be helpful. People don't leave, I'm sure probably you've heard it, but people don't leave places. They leave people a lot of times that they work with or for most of the time. So it's the manager's welcome that most directly reduces the turnover. So it's the direct, so if you're an executive director, if it's your direct person that's reporting to you, yes, it is your job, absolutely, that would really affect that person's retention. In terms of the whole other organization, depends how big the organization is, how much time you have, that we can talk and play with. But think of your managers and those of you who are also like your direct people. And all of this, it's really building the belonging, clarity, and long-term commitment. The more you spend time at the beginning, the more clear you are at setting your expectations, and it's a dynamic conversation. You could see if the person working in the future for you, does that work long-term? Do we work for the person as an organization? It's a continuous process, especially for the first 90 days that I will talk about. Next one, thank you, Michael. The financial part. So the poor onboarding costs up to 30% of annual salary and turnover. Again, the front loading and the importance of that time and commitment is, all your CFOs and everybody, all of your EDs, it's like, you don't want that time and money wasted. And it is, besides all the resource and an emotional labor. And the rehiring costs and the speed, all of that. And particularly that part that I put it in intentionally, engaged employees drive higher profit and performance. The profit in this case, and all of you hopefully are breaking even and making, difference, or at least making something. So not in the red all the time. But the higher profit, it's more like you are impacting more people. You're making a greater impact, and that also makes a difference. And then the last one, in terms of why it matters, Michael, thank you. And beyond retention, as I think Alexandra was mentioning, it's the culture. Onboarding is you're inviting and setting the person up for success in terms of the culture. And culture is built over time. And also, you remember, culture is not what you say actually in SOPs and the handbook and whatever else is on your walls. It's how people behave every day in small things and big things. It's actually what are the behaviors that are happening. And so that is inviting people into that. And so how would you like them? How would you like them to feel when they arrive? And how would you like to describe, as some of you said, like when you walk the land, if you have that retreat center, when you go somewhere where it was founded, for example, and feel that, what is the connection that you're trying to make and why? And then overall, the burnout, the well-being, the turnover, like that, when you put that in the front, that makes a big difference. And how much time you spend. So sometimes the shortest version, it could be a couple of hours, half a day. It's like the basic in a way. That's great. And if you can extend it, and I'll show you some ways that I've done it before. Again, it was built over time. So as I'm presenting things, it's like, this is from like my experience over all these years of seeing what worked and what didn't maybe, but also your capacity. Always remember about your capacity and capacity of your center is what can you do and what we have to do it at any expense. We also want you to stay there longer. All right, next slide. The 3 pillars of great onboarding, the way I look at it, at least, it's clarity, which is the roles, expectations, and systems. You may be surprised at how many times that is not clear, or it's not clarified and not made explicit. Explicit means job descriptions would be great. If you don't have job descriptions, you have got to sit down with the person and discuss what is it that you expect from them and what is their role, to as detailed as you can. And if that can be written down somewhere in writing, even better. So everybody is looking and learning from different ways. Like some people are more auditory, some people are more visual, some people need to read things. Engage all learning styles into having, and then asking the person actually, how do they learn best? That's one of the great questions at the very beginning, or even when you're interviewing. So you can set them up for success and set things up. Like for somebody, the binder with SOP would be great. A lot of organizations don't have them. And so it's like, what would be at least the minimum that can be done? That's one pillar. Connection, some of you also mentioned, relationships, is whether having dinner, it's whether having a circle, it's whether attending a meeting or an event that's around with all the staff when the person is coming in and connecting to the organization. But it's also sometimes, if your organization allows, it's creating kind of like a mentor, a buddy system. So there's somebody who is with that person that they can go to. Doesn't need to be in their department. I would actually make it not in their department. For example, that is in a way their peer, or maybe even person of a higher level, just so they're connecting with somebody or more than somebody in different ways that they can tap back into. And I'll show some other connection points. Culture and cross teams trust. So when we're setting people up for success and having them connect with other departments and other people, the biggest thing is they get to see, short of being in their shoes and doing their job exactly to that, is shadowing somebody or spending the time in the department. They get to understand how do they fit, or at least they can make a story, and then you can actually have a conversation with them. How do they understand how their role and they fit into the bigger system. That's the part, it's kind of like this expansion contraction. Their role, their little, their things in their world, how does it work in the bigger world? So you kind of going back from smaller to larger, from smaller to larger. And then the check-ins, that's something I finally implemented at Esalen, actually. I did a 30, 60, 90, and I'll talk about them briefly, but these are consistent conversations. That's all I want. If you're not doing 30, 60, 90, it's fine. But have them. Put them on your calendar. When you had one with the person, put the next one on your calendar. So you don't have to guess, when is the 30 days? When is 61? But it's that window, and it stems from, the kind of 90-day probationary period, where actually state of California, it's at will state. So anybody can leave per se, and anybody can be terminated, but you still have to have cause. Anyway, that's a different conversation for compliance. But it's this window that people have, this framework in their mind, that is what I look at. It's your 90 days is when you kind of continue to interview. Would this person fit long term? And when I interview people and kind of put them in jobs with the now clients I work with, but particularly in leadership positions, it's like, this is also your interview process that continuing for 90 days. Is this an organization for you? So always remember that it's a dynamic conversation. Any questions, any thoughts at the moment that you could put in the chat that's kind of, I don't know, that's something resonating or not, as Michael moves the slide, I would appreciate. All right. Because I'm like also watching time. The 30, 60, 90 framework, it's at least the way I see it, again, it's more of a ballpark. You could look at it and what fits for you is the 30 days is it's welcome, learn the landscape. So you just kind of, and there's different players in it. So there's an employee, there is a manager, and there's HR. So that's how I've put it together. And the reason being, an employee, it's their own experience and kind of like, how do they move through this time? The manager and their experience and responsibility. How are they moving this employee through this time? And how is their communication and relationship building and clarity? And then HR, the way I see HR in this part is actually, I am checking, or HR is checking how the employee is feeling through this process, or like what's happening. Also checking with I don't check actually with the manager. I do a bit. Checking with the manager to see like, are there any red flags now? Because what was happening, I think, where I got frustrated, we will get to day 85 or something. A manager would just come in and be like, this person is not working. Like, I need them gone. And I was like, well, that's not how that works, people. First of all. Second of all, have you talked to this person? And thirdly, like, that's a no. Unless it's an egregious, behavior, that's a different conversation. So what I've noticed is there's like a lack of accountability on the manager part to onboard and stay in the conversation with the person, even when things are difficult, particularly. And there are some behaviors that you will start noticing, like somebody's been tardy, like over and over in the first 30 days. Then you talk to them, hopefully. Then there's, it's continuing. That behavior is very hard to change. So if that's something that's really important to you, and like this is what you're noticing, and you've talked to the person, that's my was always, have you talked to the person? And the answer is no, I can't help you. I need you to go talk to the person at least once, if actually not twice. Then if things are not changing, then sure, I can coach and help you having those difficult conversations, but then everybody is on notice that this behavior needs to change. And this behavior doesn't change. Example is being late all the time, or not being open to feedback as a new employee. I've seen that as well quite a bit, and for some reason recently with my clients. You bring it up to their attention a couple of times, and guess what? And it's not changing. This won't change, most likely. And you will need to be giving feedback to this employee, or if you need this employee on, like sharp on time, every time they need to show up and they're not doing it, this won't change as well. So yes, you will be having, I suggest, difficult conversation, parting ways and shifting gears and starting all over. But it's this window where you are checking in with yourself, and then actually the HR checking with everybody. So this doesn't be like, oh my God, nobody knew this is happening. I'm like, why not? So it's on everybody. So this is an accountability and like it's a shared responsibility between an employee, new employee, and manager, and whoever represents the organization. If there's no HR, then it's an executive director to a degree. As an executive director, you got to watch your power dynamic. If you're checking, if and when you're checking in with employee. What I also watched as HR is feedback of new employees of the manager. I had my questions to find out, but this is actually how I found out some managers are not great managers, is whether their communication or there are some other patterns that the person would be professionally letting me know or like just sharing, but I am listening. That's my job. And so in those moments, I was like, oh, wait a minute. And then I started paying attention to other things. So this is how, that's for me is totally part of culture building. If you're building that and if you're intentional about it, these are your levers. These are your own check-in points to be like, are we all on this? Because what a manager is telling me, again, power dynamics and differential, what is telling me is very different how that manager is talking to the employees. There is no way for me to find out unless actually somebody brings it up or I observe something. And that's how I also started wondering like, oh, let me pay more attention to that. Let me have some conversations. Oh, I spend so much time on this. I can talk about it, as you can see, you guys, I totally run out of time. Interview process is the 36 and done by the direct manager. Yeah, so it's direct manager and HR. So there's two different kind of buckets. How personal would you suggest the onboarding be with younger generations? I would feel it out. I wouldn't. It's a very good question. Depends on your organization, but I also would try to originally not ask as many personal questions. If a person is sharing them, you just have to deal with it. And sometimes I'm in conversations, I'm like, I did not need to know that. And now I know that. And so I can't unknow that. But with younger generation, what I find is their values, their personal values have to meet with the organization, like something in their life that matters to them. So you might have that personal piece of like, from a value standpoint, and then see how that reflects in the organization on your organizational values. I hope I answer. If not, please ask me a question. Like you're happy to, you can unmute and ask me more. Michael, let's do next. We're not even going to get through half of them, I think. So quickly, it's the first 30 days, you're just observing, you're doing cross-departmental immersion, sometimes the shadow time, centers, like story values, whatever you can do. And then, of course, the person is still working in their job, so you're slowly learning. But again, when the person starts, everybody puts the things on your calendar. That at least I live by my calendar, which makes, I think, my life a lot easier and sure, structured to a degree. But it's like, it's there. So when 30 days come up, I'm like, well, I'm meeting with Barbara no matter what. And there's no like, oh my God, I missed 90 days already and 3 months go by. And you all know time flies, particularly when you're having all kinds of aspects into it. Next. Thank you, Michael. The next, this is more like a bigger, it's like in the next 30 days is you continue to clarify your expectations. There's some definitely like a job, you give feedback to the person you're watching, how they're receiving feedback. You can also ask that, how do you like to receive feedback? We all are different. Just the same, how do you learn? How do you receive, and give feedback and whatever else that's important to you? Encourage feedback both ways. And then overall, start practicing the difficult conversations, little things at a time. They don't have to be super difficult from the beginning, but this whole constructive feedback piece from the beginning of what's working, what's not, if you start doing that in incremental steps like this, it gets easier for you. It doesn't always, like it's never a complete, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm going to say an ice skating analogy, never mind, but it's never extremely easy. But when we practice things, particularly the challenging conversations, just our muscle memory, we just approach them like, well, we got to have it. So we got to have it. And then next slide, please, Michael. And then the last one is you're really verifying, does this person work? Is this going to work out? What are the things, so you're like kind of reviewing the fit, celebrating the first contributions. I would say celebrate them throughout. Celebrate the person. So that's also the piece is we're all different of what it is. Aside from the love language, how do we like to be acknowledged, celebrated? Some people, it's literally just verbally where you tell them thank you. Some people, if it's a project that you recognize them in front of other people. It doesn't take much, but it's actually a really good question to the person. Like, what is important to you? How do I recognize when you do well? What do you like? So if you hit those couple of things, then yes, it could be like, oh my God, there are all these people and I have to do all these things. If you come from that place, there could be quite resistance. But if you come from a place of how do I find this flow within myself and then recognize people around me and help them learn and grow, that is your job as a leader, from my point of view, then all of this will work. So like the whole organization will work well together. And so this is the 61 to 90, unless something else, happened before that, is really the time where you review, is this person staying with the organization or not? Please don't wait till the 90th day, make it between 60 and 80 days. But you need to make those decisions early on. Otherwise, you will still have those decisions, but it will cost you a lot of time, a lot more money, and a lot more like emotional capacity. Next slide, please. Any questions so far? If there's any questions coming up, please put them in, because I'm gonna just trying to rush through the slides. So the question was like, who's doing what check-ins? At every actual level, it's 3 of these. So HR, it's on me to schedule my own. So that's not anybody else's job. And then for the manager, it's for the manager to schedule with employee to schedule their own. And then HR actually I met with the employee and I met with the manager, or it could be informal, at least to kind of, particularly with the manager, just to check in. But if there's red flags for me already, like I would make it formal. I'd be like, so like what's happening with this person? And then also listening. You're listening for any patterns in both situations, particularly with your manager who is in your organization. Is this person saying similar things about all of the people? Or is there the same problem that's coming up and that person seems to be the common denominator? That's for you to pay attention. At least that's how I looked from the HR standpoint and just like the organizational piece. And there were times when I brought my case to the manager and be like, overall, I don't think this person will fit long-term in the organization, but I didn't veto personal, I'll tell you. I have definitely vetoed hires for sure. However, because with Esalen too, it's like there's a lot of people that are coming back. And because of my tenure, I was like, no, we're not hiring this person and I'm not having this conversation. However, I always wanted to give managers and directors and whoever was hiring the person, is like, no, I need them to work through this stuff themselves. I will give them my kind of like my reflection and what I'm seeing. And it is my job to see like ahead as well. But it's for them to figure this out and learn. And so I'm all in support, and my mind is not like, well, I told you so later. Like, no, we all got to learn our ways of how do we see the red flags and what do we do with them and how do we learn through them. I see. The 61 to 90 to determine if it's the right fit. It also helps the employee to make this decision. Yeah, it's always on both sides. So a lot of times it's like the organizations, a lot of times it's skewed one way or the other. And I just want you to have the awareness. It's a dialogue. Sure, it's a continuous dialogue, but in the 90 days, talking about that whole commitment to the 90 days more with a lot more focus for the onboarding than for the long-term benefit of everybody. That's the part to pay attention to. I love this question. How do you learn? How do you like feedback? Yeah. How do you like to be celebrated? My question is about number 2, the feedback. What if the way they ask for feedback is different from your comfort level? That's fine in the middle then. It would be great to have an example. And then as you as the leader, then I would want to work with you, Liz, is to actually get your comfort level to expand. So if they want direct feedback, and that's not your comfort, is finding a way of saying, hey, for example, I don't, in the moment, can't give you feedback, but I will need a day or 2 and I come back. So when I come back, it's not because I intentionally waited and sat on the feedback. It's because I process things differently. So again, it's a conversation, it's a dialogue, and it's finding win-win. Ideally, sure, a person says, I like it this way, it's easy for you, great. That's not always how it happens. Or somebody says something like, I like it, I like the feedback this way. You provide it that way. And they're like, never mind, I don't, and then they kind of get very resistant and go, wait, but this is what you said. Dialogue. The part about it, if we don't engage in those dialogues, you will never know. And it would totally snowball and people will implode or explode. And then there are problems. So I'm trying to work with all of you as that more like of a preventative thing. Michael, next slide, please. Let me just do this quickly. I wanted to, hold on, I'm typing something for you in the chat. I typed in my email and because we're going to run out of time. And the reason being, if you have a question or you're like, hey, I have this, could you take a look? I'm happy to take a look. I'm happy to give feedback, or I'm happy to jump on the call to just walk through something that is, or like, I don't know where to start. And so please don't hesitate. And I'm happy to work with you to just get to some place where you're comfortable enough. Common pitfalls, one-day orientation mindset, or none. You can kind of like sink or swim. Hey, we're really busy. All of this is happening and there's no intention to even come back to this orientation or like what the process is. Or it's just like a 1 day or half a day, or like, here's you go. You met with HR, it's a 2-hour thing. And then that's it. No. That's as simple as that. That won't work. You will have challenges because, and the challenges is not that the person won't work out. It will be challenging for the person. You all spoke to moments when you remembered how it felt, when it felt good and welcoming. And all of you had different ones. And I'm sure some of us, as we're listening, to be like, oh, I had a similar one somewhere else about that. But the same goes the other direction in a sense. When it doesn't feel good and there is no orientation and you're sinking or swimming, and Liz, as you spoke, it's like there isn't any clear onboarding and you continuously feeling like you're probably underwater or just above. That's not a fun space to be, like, at all. This is how burnout happens. You never get out of that space and create no capacity. So that's the part, no follow-up after week 1. That happens all the time. So there's an onboarding, there's this, and that's why I kind of put it actually those 30, 60, 90. Because we had the onboarding, it was the first week. And the week was actually, there was a lot of, I always told managers and directors, you do not have your person when you hire them for the first week, like forget it. Because what I wanted for the organization, it's more of a cultural build and welcoming, is that I had that person, I had my team schedule that person in other departments to literally be like 2 hours, 4 hours with the maintenance department, like front office department, every single, like we had the whole little template, like every department where they spent time in that department, just being next to somebody, just greeting people. Trust me, that really creates not just camaraderie, and then they personally met people in those departments that they can build relationships with. It's on them then. But it also creates a lot of, like, we create these organizations and we run them because we have a lot of empathy. A lot of leaders in these organizations, they attract those kind of people. And that empathy kind of got to spread out everywhere, is that for a new person to understand what the job somewhere else entails. It doesn't have to be to the T, but just understand, like, what programs do versus operations versus guest services. And so they don't bicker later that, oh, you should have done this, or this is not my job, or who's on first, who's on second. That creates a lot of cohesion. However, if that's just first week and then nobody talks to this person for the next ever, guess what? Things will float to the surface to be like, well, this was a little flag, but we just never addressed it. Oh, this person said that this person's always done it, but the manager never talked to them. So we're going back to the whole 30% financial implication to hire a new person. And so, but it's also morale. You also got to remember that if you're not addressing things as they come up, people are paying attention to you and how you lead. That's it. So if you're not addressing challenging things, others are going to think it's a human behavior, that that's okay. Therefore, it really slides the whole culture building. Culture building is very time consuming, intention, resources, everything process. It's a beautiful thing, and it can slip very quickly if you're not paying attention. Overwhelming info dump, I think maybe all of us experience that. Liz can definitely talk to that. Is like here, all of the things all the time. So when you scheduling onboarding, please give people breathing space. If you're, let's say you schedule it for the day or a week, literally build a reflection time. Like I never told the manager, by the way, your person is going to go for a walk for 2 hours. Like, look, I don't need you. I don't need your input about that. I'm going to build how I believe in it. Build the cadence so the nervous system can adjust and digest things to the best of its ability. At least for that. And then skipping culture and connection. So it's like a lot of times, like I just want them to do the job because we haven't had somebody in this job for 3 months and we're so behind and it's all systems. When we skip culture and connection, that person will feel like they are on their own and they're totally isolated. And they're also not clear like what's happening around them. So that's a piece. Next slide.
I just wonder, do we want to give a few minutes or questions? Like there's
yeah, I think there's like, yeah, so we're gonna pause. There's slides, I think, and Michael, I think when you send out the recording, now that you have my presentation, actually, if you can add the deck, that's absolutely fine.
Awesome. Yeah, we can totally do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you all can look at it. So, oh, this is so good. We can spend another hour on this. So many of us in centers found our way to leadership from, of the mission. Yeah. I'm happy to do a month long. That's just more we'll talk about with RCC. I'm happy to do a month long or whatever that we could think through because I appreciate it, Michael, actually. The part is that a lot of times exactly this happens, that the leader, whether grows within the organization and or comes into the organization and they come from different industry and things like that. And so they find themselves in deep water with HR. I want it more of like, how can I give you all possibly tools and understanding of what are the things that you can do and actually what are the things that you do want to call somebody. And it's okay. It's actually okay to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you just walk me through something? Because at the end of the day, you're the one making the decision. You're the one accountable for your organization. But you don't have to have, just like for other things, you don't have to have all the skills. Like some of you are better at programming or have more of a passion there. Some of you are more into finance or operations. Like we all have our strength. This one is hard for a lot of people. And so, yeah, we could definitely look into something. So Leslie, we'd love the opportunity to workshop our onboarding. Yeah, Leslie, please reach out. I'm happy to talk. Happy to.
And if there's others that would be interested in that sort of workshopping thing, just put a quick note in there, and that will give us a sense of how many folks might be interested. If that's, because these hour sessions are supposed to be like quick and a lot of info to kind of get us thinking, and then it's an opportunity for us as an organization, if we feel something would be beneficial as a collaboration, to go deeper. It's really helpful for you to tell us. So I see Sarah Lynn and Leslie interested. If others would be interested, that'd be great. Matthew, thanks.
Yeah. I'm aware it's 1 minute. Anything else that's really pressing for somebody right now? Or can I have at least thumbs up that some of this stuff resonated like so summed up, sideways, down in some ways that I can visually see. Okay, cool. All right, that's great. Great. Yes, it's a bigger topic. I didn't realize it now as I slide through this. But I also really appreciate all of you engaging in it as well, because it really, like, as we checked in the beginning as well, that's what's important. One word out. How are you feeling at the moment before we part? So I am really energized, as you could see and feel. Michael.
I'm feeling great. 30, 60, 90. I'm excited to think about that. And I'll just take this chance to say we have a retreat coming up. We'd love to see you. There's still a few spots left. I put the link in. And our next community call is Programming as a Path to Profitability on November 21st. Who else has a word?
Perfect.
Inspired.
Exactly. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, just pop in.
Excited.
Very informative. Thank
Yes,
you.
what I realized, Tatyana, is I'm doing this all myself instead of having more expectation of my managers. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's their job, by the way. It's
Yeah,
their
yeah.
person.
Yeah.
It's from my point of view, as you can see. I'm
Yes,
like, by
yes.
the way.
Yeah.
And for those of you who haven't met me before, I am direct. And so that's just comes with the territory, in case you were wondering. So my style, please put it on your style, however that is, and just to the, to how you lead and communicate. Thank you all. It's been lovely. Thank you for the time. You direct Tatyana, couldn't. Well, Peter, aren't you funny? But I'm really grateful that you all took the time, because it's an hour out of your time. And Alexandra, I appreciate you said, hey, I'm interested if the time works. So just, yeah, I would love to find the times that work for the majority of people and things, so we can actually kind of workshop through things. So like maybe we'll do something that you just bring things in and we just work through that together. Because my thing is also, I'm very practical. So it's like, what is helpful to you? What can you take away that you can implement? That's it. I swear to God, I'm done. Thank you all. Have a lovely, lovely afternoon. And I will see you in a month, if not before that, or at the retreat for those of you who are coming. So I will be there as well.
Thanks, Tatyana.